Good morning and welcome to our home in Bromley Common and our continued short Lent stories of journeys. Richard yesterday told us the story of Abraham, and today we're going to continue with the story of Hagar. But just before we start, here's a little bit from Psalm 86. Incline your ear, O Lord, and answer me, for I am poor and needy. Preserve my life, for I am devoted to you. Save your servant who trusts in you. You are my God. Now, Hagar often gets a bad press. After all, she is not Sarah, Abraham's wife. She is not the mother of Isaac, the promised child. No, Hagar rather, is a complete nobody. She is an Egyptian slave acquired by Abraham and Sarah under somewhat perhaps dubious circumstances. Abraham and Sarah had gone down to Egypt to escape famine. And considering that Abraham is regarded as a hero of the faith, what happened was rather ignominious. To save his own skin, he told Sarah to tell everyone that she was his sister. As she was very beautiful, despite being over 70, Pharaoh's officials encouraged Pharaoh to take Sarah as his wife. When it was found out, Abraham was given riches, livestock, and slaves and told to get out. Not a very heroic action. Years later, Sarah laments her childlessness. It was a very real stigma in her society, and she longs for a child just as Abraham longs for an heir, an answer to God's covenant promise. So Sarah offers her slave girl to Abraham. Now, to me, I don't know about you, but it seems absolutely appalling. This is sanctioned rape. But when Hagar becomes pregnant, Sarah is jealous and exploits her further. In fact, she mistreats Hagar so badly that Hagar runs away, as if being a surrogate and being raped is not enough pain. The words mistreated badly echo the same sense of the harsh treatment that the Egyptians inflicted on Abraham's descendants before the Exodus. In Genesis 16:7, we see that Hagar has run away. And when she reaches shore, nearly on the borders of Egypt, God calls Hagar by name. In biblical times, to be named is to be known, understood, given identity, and love. The angel of the Lord then calls her to go back into that awful situation, but this time with a promise. Her son, Ishmael, will be special, will be the father of another great nation. Ishmael means God hears. God has heard Hagar's lament and seen her misery. And Hagar responds by saying, I have now seen the one who sees me. She calls God by a new name, El Roi. This is a privilege not even accorded to Sarah, who never addresses God directly, or sees or hears God herself. In fact, Hagar is the only woman to give God a name in the whole Bible. Hagar's troubles didn't come to an end when she returned to Abraham and Sarah. Her son Ishmael grew up and was a teenager when Sarah did finally become pregnant and give birth to Isaac. And as Isaac grew, Sarah was still jealous of Hagar and Ishmael, And like any teenager, Ishmael probably wasn't the most tactful towards his stepbrother. So Sarah tells Abraham, get rid of that slave. So Hagar leaves for a second time. This time she is given limited provisions by Abraham, but she also has her son to care for. When all was hopeless, she began to sob, leaving her son a little way away so that she didn't have to see him die. Ishmael was her only joy, her only hope. Then God comes again to tell her that he has heard the boys' cries and they are saved. Eventually, Ishmael becomes an archer living in the deserts, and Hagar gets him a wife from Egypt. It seems she was able to go home back to Egypt at last. Ishmael was reconciled briefly with his half-brother at Abraham's death. But we do note that Abraham had other sons by concubines, unnamed women, like Hagar bought as slaves. Hagar's running away was real. She was running away from pain, from exploitation, captivity, and abuse. How many men and women run away for the same reason? We see it all the time. We hear of people running away from genocide, slavery, violence. Whatever we are facing, in the story of Hagar, we see that God sees our suffering. He hears our cries and knows us by name. Our pain is never unnoticed. Even if it feels like we are abandoned, God doesn't abandon us. He sees. Hagar is privileged. She has seen the God who sees and knows her. So whatever we are going through, be assured that God sees and knows. He knows us by name. He identifies with our suffering and he cares for us. So be blessed, and we will continue our journeys tomorrow. Every blessing.